Hey, artsy friends. I just finished my second composition notebook and I just released a video where I prepped my next one. But in between, as I was sick, I did a lot of watercolor and marker or ink artwork in an old spiral journal that I had. And so I did record it. Wasn't sure if I was going to share it, but I am. So because I really enjoy this kind of process right here, which is starting with simple watercolor. And this watercolor tray, I think I got at like just a regular like Walmart or something. It's nothing fancy. They're not high end. They're just like your basic kids cheap watercolors. So I have not yet ventured into investing in really high quality watercolors or anything, because most of the watercolor artwork that I do is kind of like this. It's not realism. It's more abstract. So anyway, excuse me. I'm still fighting that tail end of that sickness, but I'm doing much better. So we just start with color and shapes and just kind of intuitively move around the page, with different shapes, circles and waves, and just kind of see what it becomes as you go. So just play around with different colors. And at first it looks very almost elementary art school class, but you'll see that as we add more and more detail and outline, that it's gonna be a really cool finished piece. So enjoy watching. Okay, once you're done with your watercolor, you just want to make sure that it's all dry before you move on. And you can skip this step. You don't have to do a sealer or Mod Podge, but I find that if I do that, the markers kind of lay a little easier on top of the watercolor. Okay, I'm starting my outline with Sharpie markers, which are alcohol based. I'm really trying to learn how different medium interact with each other, as there are markers that are water based, oil based, and alcohol based. And they interact a little bit differently if you're going to put any kind of like watercolor moisture over something. So anyway, Sharpies are alcohol based, but they work just fine, especially when you have the Mod Podge. You kind of like create a new surface where the watercolor would have been fine, but sometimes with some markers that I use directly on top of watercolor, it seems like the watercolors just like almost absorb some of the markers. So that's why I use the Mod Podge as an in-between layer. And once I outline the different shapes and the different colors, I am going back with acrylic markers, which I have some kind of generic ones, and then I have Poscas, which Poscas you can never go wrong with because they just flow so well. And those are basically acrylic paints in marker form. Also, I wanted to mention if you're going to choose to outline all like the shapes with black, that they don't have to be perfectly on the line. You can show some of the blend. So if you see like that green circle, how like the blue and the green kind of overlapped a little, and that's totally fine. Don't feel like you have to like make it like this perfect coloring book where every line encapsulates like a solid color. So some of that blending actually I think looks pretty cool. So one of the markers kind of kind of threw up a little bit too much ink. Ew, that's kind of a gross way to put it, but you just run with it, whatever. And yeah, so now I'm just going in and creating patterns of different color on color. There's certain colors you start to figure out which colors look kind of good together. And, you know, you can study color theory and the color wheel and see either complementary colors, which are the colors that are opposite on the color wheel, or there's analogous colors, which are kind of close to each other on the color wheel. Okay, so I kind of skipped ahead. These are different days, different recording times, so you can see what I've done in the meantime. And now I'm going back with a fine line marker and doing some more little detail outlines. So all these little details are just going to make the page kind of come to life and pop. All that contrast of dark and light and patterns, and so it just makes for a really fun page. So it's a fun, easy process that when you're finished, sometimes people look at a finished product and you're like, oh my gosh, how did they do that? But when you follow step by step, each of these steps are very simple. So I encourage you, if you like this style, to give it a try. And yeah, I'll let you just watch the rest.